This is the Dr. Duke Show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show. I am Dr. Duke, and I am joined today by Vicki McKenna. Vicki, as always, welcome to the program.
Great to be here. Can't wait.
So we got a bunch of college kids, as we see now globally. We have college kids who actually are fighting for social justice while cheering on the beheading of babies, the charring of their bodies, the rape, the sodomizing, let me just say, of Israeli young women and the murder of grandparents. And that same group of morally bankrupt morons is also this group we're going to talk about today. The LGBTQIA+, as you would say, the LGBTQ WTF, students at Clemson in South Carolina are marching in protest because they want the return of tampons to men's bathrooms, Vicki. This is one of the great issues of our day that they're taking a stand on. When they're calling for the death of more Israelis and they're asking for tampons for men, I guess, man, what can you get even more? Is it possible to be more woke than this, Vicki?
Well, this is what social justice really means. It means destruction. It means nihilism. You and I recently had a conversation on why the left makes common cause with vicious murderers, Islamic murderers. And that is because all they're looking to do is to tear down a civilization, in this case, Western civilization. Hamas hates Western civilization as it's idealized by Israel and the United States, and the left hates Western civilization as it's idealized by Israel and the United States. So this is all about tearing down structures, systems, culture, institutions, taboos and mores, and even common sense. Because common sense, of course, is proof of colonization. You know, we should put up a link to our recent, long discussion about decolonization, Duke. But it's part of the same nihilistic nuttiness that's very, very dangerous. But it presents sometimes as absurdity. So you're sort of inclined to just roll your eyes and just think it's not something that's a big deal. But it is. In this case, it's about breaking down the difference between male and female. And if you break down the difference between male and female, you break down Western law, you break down Western society, you create utter chaos, interpersonal and societal chaos. And that's their goal. Their goal is to create chaos, which allows someone else to seize control and ultimately allows their kind to seize power. So we should pay attention to this. But I mean, just on its face, it is so absurd that back in 2015, when all of this started, when Barack Obama was issuing, subtle changes to language in Title IX, how is it that not everybody stood up and pointed and started laughing at the stupidity of the whole thing, at least putting this trans madness, maybe, putting their boot on the neck of it before it got so out of hand that now we're contending with crap like this and we are supposed to take a march for tampons in men's rooms seriously. But we do.
And the one thing you left out of your great litany of what these progressives were doing was the undermining of Christianity as well.
Of course. Yes, you're right. I'm sorry. It should have been the top of the list.
Yeah, it's at the top of the list. And again, if Islam was doing this to, say, Hindus, the left would not, these kids would not really be on the side of Islam. But they're doing it to the Jews, right? And when you think about the origins of Western culture being Judeo-Christian worldview, this is part and parcel of this. And again, notice the argument. These radical Hamas monsters and the Palestinians who stupidly vote for them again and again, they are not really destroying Israel. According to these college kids, they are resisting the entire Western world. All
Correct.
Western culture is what they're attacking here. And
they are supporting what they call decolonization. That is a word everybody should know the meaning of. That's what they claim they're supporting, but it's not about land. It's about all institutions and culture. By the way, anybody paying any attention to the mass genocide of Christians, Armenian Christians? No. I didn't think so, because nobody seems to think that this is much of a problem on the American left. The Christians, let them be massacred. Jews, at least we still have Americans in the United States willing to stand up on behalf of Israel. But for the most part, the left is pretty much okay with Jews being massacred in Israel.
Well, and don't for one second think that these people aren't here too, these sleeper cells. I mean, you've had an open border for 3 years. 171 terrorist watch list people were actually apprehended at the border this year. You think 171 were caught, so you got to figure 3 to 5 times that many got through.
I got to correct you with 651.
Yes, there you go.
Not 171, 651 in the year 2023 on the terror watch list. Over 70,000 from terror-supporting nations have absconded into the United States. We have no idea where they are. But back to the left. This is just a different version of cheering on the destruction of Israel. It's just a different version. It's a wholesale demand of the destruction of Israel. Here in the United States, they take aim at pieces of it, important pieces of our culture that keep us stable. And so that's what this is. I mean, what we needed, again, back when you could tell a political movement had been artificially created and unleashed on the United States and in the West. This is also going on in the UK. It's going on in EU countries. It's going on in Western countries. It was coordinated. When that happened, that is when all men should have stood up and said, "Get the hell out of my bathroom." And all men should have stood up and said, "Get the hell out of my wife's and daughter's bathroom." When all men should have shaken off the recreation of manhood as a feminist doormat and stood up against this and pushed back. But we didn't have that in the West, because everybody has already, over the past 50, 60 years, you have seen the slow and incremental erosion of our values, our culture, and our institutions. So it already had begun so many years ago that when you do things like this, you can actually strike rapid body blows to our culture without having to launch a terror attack on the United States. You just simply do it this way. It's easier. People don't notice it as obviously, and you can even get people harangued into supporting your cause by shaming them as bigots or white supremacists or anti-transphobes or whatever.
So we do have imagery. Take a look. This is the decolonization of our bathrooms. Apparently, men's rooms are places of oppression unless there are tampons in those bathrooms. And you can see here's the Clemson University demands, the LQTBQ demands. This is why we march demands. 1, we demand revisions to the student code of conduct that applies to non-discrimination and anti-harassment policy on the basis of race, color, blah, 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 to student organizations. They are angry that Republicans, college Republicans on the campus of Clemson, protested and mocked tampons in the men's room, which is one of the reasons why they were removed by Clemson. And so now they want the power, the LQTBQ, to punish the Republican organizations for not agreeing with them. Number 2, we demand the return of the menstrual dispensaries within the men's restroom at Cooper Library, and for Clemson University to release a formal statement condemning their vandalization with hateful, transphobic language. And finally, we demand repercussions towards the Clemson College Republicans for contributing to a campus climate that encourages transphobic rhetoric and jeopardizes the safety of the LQTBQ. And I got to ask you before you immediately start blowing up, because I know you're going to, got to ask you. So explain to me how not allowing a man in a men's bathroom to stick a tampon up his rear, how is that terrorism of LQTBQ kids? I'll wait for your answer.
You're not allowed to, I must have that tampon. So what they're basically saying is women who want to pretend to be men need tampons. Let's cut through this. It's not even men stuffing tampons up their backsides. It's women who need tampons because they have their period. By the way, let me just say this. Women are not even going to grab the tampons because women are so freaked out at this point because the feminists have basically told all women that their periods are punishment from God or some part of the patriarchy, that they don't like to use tampons. So if you really wanted to make a statement, you'd say we need maxi pads in the men's room. But it's just symbolism. Nobody uses them, but it's about making everybody accede to this lie that there is no difference between men and women who want to call themselves men. There's no difference. Biology is irrelevant. Everything's irrelevant. Everything's negotiable. This is the postmodern hell of no such thing as objective truth. And they want to force everyone, just by looking at it, to have to somehow concede to their lie. And that's why I think everyone should just say, absolutely not. We're not going to do this. Because it's just like forcing me to call you some stupid made up pronoun. You are forcing people either silently or verbally or tacitly or overtly to rubber stamp the lie of gender politics. And they should just simply say no because of that. But these little fights end up becoming huge battles later on that nobody wants to fight. This little tampon spat at Clemson is something that has given way to human resource departments around the United States claiming that office personnel and everyone must identify themselves as a certain pronoun. I mean, it's given way to, all kinds of bizarre, twisted, inverted, quote, discrimination avoidance policy at companies around the United States. And it's almost at this point impossible to eradicate it.
Yeah. And two things before we go to break real quickly. Number one, by definition, right, we would have to put urinals in women's bathrooms, right? I mean, notice how it's always men's rooms. It's always women's rooms. The disproportionality. If you were to put urinals in women's bathrooms, the reason they won't do it is because there would be piss all over the walls. And so notice that these are virtue signaling accommodations. And right before the break, we might show the map, just in case you want to go to Clemson University. They've mapped out where this is why they're so successful. They have this all coordinated. They have maps. They have the poor college Republicans are literally under fire for sending a tweet. That's the level of their activism. Meanwhile, you've got the LQTBQ wackos completely funded, and they've got their parade routes, and they've got all this or that. Let's go to break. And when we come back, we do have two really important stories I want to make sure we get to. One kind of fun for Halloween. We'll be right back. So related to this trans madness, we have a state representative from Wisconsin, where we are located. His name is Dave Considine. He is a complete dumb beep. He is a piece of work. This guy is a Democrat, not surprisingly, from Baraboo, which is down by the Dells, a very swanky kind of vacation area. And he's basically making the argument that women just need to suck it up. They need to become more tough. If young girls are against trans kids, trans boys playing their sports, they're just going to have to try a little harder. We got some video. Listen to this.
And my granddaughter, who's playing college sports, I asked her about this when we had this 2 years ago, and she said, you know what? If a trans woman was competing against me in the sport, then that just means if that person's better than me, I need to work harder.
Holy cow. Let me throw this at you, Vicky. How would this go over? Hey, if blacks aren't doing as well as whites in America, they just got to work harder. I mean, come on, they're not good enough.
Yeah, if women aren't getting are not aggressive enough to ask for raises, they just have to work harder. Can you imagine any of this stuff being applied in any other context? Yeah, you're a woman on a volleyball team, and there's a guy the size of Dave Considine on the opposite side of the net from you, and that guy spikes a ball right into your face, shattering your orbital bone, which actually happened to a girl. You're just going to have to practice more, little lady. You're just going to have to try harder. There's no reason for you to be upset about the fact that you have got a much larger, stronger man on a team. You're just going to have to, suck it up. So, the guys who are running track, who are ranked 300th nationally, they get on the ladies team, they're number 1. You girls are just going to have to try harder. Just try harder. You know what he also said? He also said this was like separate but equal. He claimed that this was like the racism of the South that wanted to separate blacks and whites with lesser accommodations for blacks. So that was his argument against protecting girls from boys in sports. And by the way, the piece of legislation he was talking about would also create another category, an other category, a non-binary category for anybody who wanted to participate. So he was claiming all of this is akin to the racism of the South that ultimately resulted, occasionally in lynchings and home burnings and church burnings. That's exactly what it would be like to ban a man from girls' sports.
Well, this is what he's saying.
And the girls' locker rooms, by the way, hanging his junk out in the girls' locker rooms, kicking him out of the girls' locker rooms, also like the racism of the Deep South in the 1950s.
It's also, Vicky, what he's telling these young girls when he says you have to work harder, he's telling them, you really got to grow bigger lungs, and you've got to grow bigger hearts, right? And bigger shoulders, and you got to have masculine musculature, even though you're a woman. So you're going to have to work on all those things. The guys, they just got to put on a wig, right? And all of a sudden they dominate. We got another video from this guy. You're going to love this one, in which he blames women, young girls, who want college scholarships for sports, that they're being selfish. Here we go.
The best we got was, some parents are concerned that their daughter might miss out on a scholarship. They might miss out on playing for this team or that team. Boy, that doesn't sound like community. That sounds like selfishness. I'm sorry to label it that way, but that sounds like what it is to me. I'm only worried about myself. I'm not worried about building the team and having my school have a powerful team.
Selfish. You work all your life as a child to become a great athlete, and when you get to college and you want a scholarship for your hard work, you're being selfish. And notice, he doesn't say that about the many black athletes who fight their way out of the ghetto through scholarships. He's not telling those black men they should give up their spaces to
or black women.
Yeah, you got it.
So what if white people suddenly started to identify as black people so that they could get scholarships?
Yep.
So that they could get scholarships. Would that be okay? Because that's what he's saying.
Selfish.
Men can identify as women. And what are they going to get out of this, Duke? Team spirit? No, it's actually shattering any kind of team community. What are they getting out of this? Scholarships. They're getting awards and scholarships by lying about their sex because as male athletes, they suck. Now, I don't know if anybody stood up and said that, but I would have had a hard time not saying that to that guy. That guy that is so deeply misogynist, you almost can't believe it. But again, the left, everything the left says is an inversion of reality and the truth. If they say they're for social justice, they are for ending social cohesion and injustice. If they say they're for fairness, they're for rigging the game for their people. If they are for women, they're actually for taking opportunities away and canceling women. By the way, and this is just, sort of kind of tangentially related. Men's Health magazine has now adopted the term vulva owner to replace the word woman. So Mr. Considine is part of a group of people that literally wants to erase the use of the word woman when it comes to biological women, replacing it instead with vulva owner. When you're going out with a vulva owner, when you're taking a vulva owner on a date, when you're picking up the tab for a vulva owner, I'm not kidding you.
It sounds like a Swedish car, right? Get in your Volvo. I'm telling you right now, these people will not stop until somebody breaks them. And the tragedy is, people on the other side are too polite, too careful, too worried, too nervous
too careful.
Yep.
Too fearful, too cowardly to stand up and do anything. You know, I got an email from someone just a couple of days ago and said, yeah, you know, I love it when you talk about fighting back, and I just think that's great. And, you know, but I have a job and I have a couple of kids and I'm really worried about doing anything. And I'm thinking that's our problem, because people will not stand up on the small things. Every Republican in that chamber should have stood up and shamed that guy into sitting down and relinquishing the microphone all at once. They should have literally shouted him down, but they didn't want to do it. People don't want to stand up. Moms don't want to defend their kids. Dads don't want to defend their kids. And the ones who are willing to do it don't have an army of people standing shoulder to shoulder with them oftentimes. They get the quiet, oh, I'm really happy that you're fighting like that. Thanks for what you're doing. You know, but they won't join in the fight because people are too cowardly to risk anything. The majority of people won't risk simple things for principled fights. Imagine if it ever comes to pass where you have to risk big things, say to save the country.
You take risks every day on your show, saying things that could get you done. I, at the university, say these things. We are fighting the fight, and people should join us. Before we clock out today, and we do have a story that I think is a little bit more humorous, try to end on something that's a little less disturbing. We have Florida parents who are furious because their fourth graders, 9-year-olds, were shown Winnie the Pooh horror movie in school. They were actually shown a slasher movie to 9-year-olds, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. And, you know, you and I are against this. Taking a math class, by the way, a math teacher showed this instead of doing math. Now we know why kids can't do math. But I want to show you the trailer for this, a little piece of this, because over and above the fact that it's inappropriate for children, this is ridiculous. Take a look at this for Halloween.
I feel completely abandoned by the school. And
Michelle Diaz reached out to CBS News Miami. She said her fourth grader twins were distraught because of a movie their math teacher played for students on Monday, October 2nd.
So they were exposed 20 to 30 minutes to a movie called Winnie the Pooh, Honey and Blood.
We need to go.
This is the trailer of the film. It's rated NR, meaning not rated. The premise? Two bloodthirsty murderers, one of them wearing Winnie the Pooh mask, terrorized a group of young university women.
He didn't stop the movie, even though there were kids that were like, hey, just stop the movie, we don't want to watch this and whatever.
How was that movie picked?
So he said that the children picked it. It's not them to decide what they want to watch. It's up to the professor to look at the content.
By being a charter school, the Academy of Innovative Education is not under the umbrella of Miami-Dade Public Schools. This institution hires their personnel independently. CBS News Miami reached out to the head of the school, Ms. Vera Hirsch. She responded with a statement acknowledging that fourth graders were shown a segment of a horror movie, and the administration promptly addressed the issue directly with the teacher and has taken appropriate action to ensure the safety and well-being of students.
Vicky, boobs, blood, and bears for your Halloween. What are your thoughts?
Oh, what is appropriate action, by the way? I always love that. We've taken appropriate action. Really, according to the parents? Would the parents consider that appropriate action? I want to know why a fourth grade math teacher ever even had that movie in a pile of movies that perhaps children could have chosen from. I mean, is he really so dumb that he didn't realize Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey is actually not about Winnie the Pooh? It's about a couple of guys in Winnie the Pooh and Piglet costumes killing people. And there's, as I understand as well, an enormous amount of nudity. I have not seen this movie, by the way, or at least some nudity in the movie. What was that doing in the classroom in the first place, you sick, sick dude? Was it? I mean, I need an explanation. Did he just happen to grab a bunch of movies from his home theater collection? In which case, I question his taste, and just bring him into class. And again, why a movie when you should be teaching kids? What do you learn in fourth grade math? Is that like long division? I forget what you learn in fourth grade math, but it's important because all other math is built upon it. I don't know what to say. I kind of want to see the movie. I'm not going to lie. But I'm also 55 years old. So, yeah, I can take it.
Well, maybe they were doing the ratio to boobs to blood. Maybe that's what they were adding those things up.
Yes,
as
maybe.
There you go.
Maybe they were counting dead bodies as they were falling, dividing the dead bodies by something, calculating a percentage so that you knew how much to tip. I don't know.
Happy Halloween, Vicki, and that's going to wrap up the show. If you enjoyed the program, please subscribe to our audio podcast. Simply search Dr. Duke Show on your favorite free platform. And don't forget to follow us on Rumble. We're there too. Visit rumble.com/Freedom Project and follow us. For all of us at the show, for Vicki McKenna, for boobs and breasts and bears everywhere and blood, we wish you a very happy Halloween.